Hey, what's up? I'm God. This is Seven Mortal Sins. Welcome. So, today I got the spice for you guys. It is an Idol Michael guide. I know I kind of dumped on her a little bit in one of my update videos, but after some theory crafting and talking with some people on the Discord, I've come up with some options for her. I still think she might struggle a little bit in the current PvP metagame. She's not exactly like the most top tier character ever designed, but she is good, and she does do things. So let's jump into it real quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and do an overview of her kit. I'm not gonna read it line by line, because you guys can literally just go right here into the Soulpedia if you want to read the kit for yourself, but I am going to tell you what she does in a nutshell. So on her skill 1, she's got speed up, cooldown reduction, and a self move buff. Her skill 1 and skill 2 are going to be kind of like flip-floppy, so like she'll get one part of her skill 1 from odd turns, one part of her skill 1 from even turns, you know, depending on when she moves, she does different things with this skill. Her skill 2 has a debuff on enemies that increases their damage taken. It removes taunt, it inflicts charm, and it is another self-move gauge buff. Again, this one is also one of those flip-floppy things where it kind of does something different depending on the turn she attacks, whether it's odd or even. So her S3 is shield removal. It does extra damage to agility type enemies. It gives the team all damage reduction on a condition. It is conditional. It revives, which I believe might also be conditional. Her S4 makes her immune to taunt. She does get a blood pact now that you can change her taunt immunity for confuse immunity, which is significantly better. Even if you can only get that on like an ultra rare blood pact, I think it's worth slotting in. She has conditional all damage reduction for herself, as well as a self heal and a conditional team move buff, as well as pursuit and DOT. So she's got quite a bit in her kit. Now, a lot of people, I believe I brought this up in my update video, but she's fairly comparable to some other characters. Like, you know, she has some unique stuff in her kit, but at the end of the day, her archetype, I guess, she's not the only one that can do what she does from a support perspective. You know, you've got Race Raph, who's another character you can slot in, who is significantly faster than Idol Michael. You've got Furka, wherever she's hanging out. She's down here somewhere. But Furka, it basically has the same move gauge, speed up kind of thing going on. She's a little bit weaker in terms of strength, but with her consonants, you can get her to be just as fast. So, you know, again, similar roles. You know, Sariel has a team speed buff at start. She does move gauge buffs on, you know, when she attacks for her first 3 turns. Let's see. You know, there's a lot of characters you can kind of compare her to. But what really sets her apart from those is, you know, compared to Furka, she does more. Like, she does a lot of other things too, in addition to the HP, or not the HP buffing, but the move gauge buffing. She does more stuff, like she can charm, she can remove taunt or confuse depending on what blood pact you have. She heals herself, which is really big. And, you know, she's green, so she could be slot into a different team, like with Maman or whatever. Like, she just does a little bit more although it's conditional, than Furka. And then compared to Speed Raf, you know, she's got a little bit more defensive utility than Speed Raf. Like, you know, Michael has the revive, she's got the self-sustain. So she kind of leans more towards like an all-rounder than she does like a pure support. Even though most of the time you're going to kind of want to build her as a support. So as far as building her goes, there's really like 3 schools of thought for this, right? 3 ways that you can build her. There is the support build, which is the easiest way to do that, and that would be using, you know, HP and speed. You know, focus on HP, focus on speed. You know, get a HP or a speed main stat on your slot 2. Get HP percent on slots 4 and 6, and really just kind of dig into that HP and speed. And part of the reason for that is, if you look right here, right, so Rise of Angel. If caster's HP is above 70%, this goes down to 50%. This is an HP threshold. The more HP you have, the bigger your threshold is. Like, for example, if you look at my Michael, she has 50,000 HP, which means that she can take a larger hit and still be within that threshold. The less HP you have, the easier your threshold is broken. So as far as a support build goes, you want big HP to, you know, have that big threshold, and then you want lots of speed to make sure you're not lagging too far behind, because you really only want to have to take maybe 1 hit before she can go, or just have her be able to go before the enemy. Both scenarios are ideal for the support build. So for the all-rounder, which is the second school of thought for building her, you just kind of give her everything, right? You give her some HP, you give her some attack, you give her some defense, you give her some speed, you know, because she does have that healing. She also has decent damage. She can revive. She can do, you know, a lot of everything, kind of. And you don't necessarily lean into her as a team buffer. You kind of put her on your team the same way you would put like a Panagia or a Belial, right? You just need a solid all-rounder to slap on your team, and you don't necessarily have her focused on buffing your team's move gauge so much as her just, you know, kind of doing her own thing. And that kind of build is a little bit easier to slot into kind of any generic team. Like, especially if that team doesn't necessarily need the move gauge support, that would be a good team for that kind of build. And her last build, or last way you can build her, is as a pure DPS, where you're stacking as much attack, speed, and crit as possible, and having supports support her, and then she'll turn around and rebuff all her supports to buff her again, right? So, like, let's say you've got a team of Idol Michael, Mammon, Leviathan, Sariel, and I don't know, Christmas Satan, right? That would be like the turbo speed, aggression, move gauge, adjusting team, right? So the whole idea behind that team would be to just turbo out Christmas Satan to nuke their move gauge, and then turbo out Idol Michael to rebuff your move gauge, which in turn speeds up your supports, which speed up your Idol Michael again, which speed up your supports, and Michael and Christmas Satan are just boom, 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 you know, because you're gaining so much move gauge and you just nuked your opponent's move gauge. You just like turbo out for like a DPS Michael. You could also build that kind of a team, but instead of using, like Christmas Satan or some of the other characters, you can add in, some crowd controllers, like your OG Michael, your Xmas Lucy, characters like that. And before I get too far down that rabbit hole, I'm just going to lay out some potential teammates, not necessarily teams as a whole, for Idol Michael. So one of those would be OG Metatron. So OG Metatron has always been a staple as far as blocking crowd control. As long as the character you want to have protected from crowd control has very high attack. So this character would pair really well with the DPS build of Idol Michael. That way you can kind of give her some protection that way. Because Michael's two biggest weaknesses are crowd control and not being able to move, or being under her HP threshold by the time she gets to move. And these two characters are probably my top two picks for fixing those issues. Like, you literally just slap in Metatron, give your Idol Michael high attack, and boom, you don't have to worry about crowd control on her anymore. And then Thyla, you slap her on your team, and she gives two characters on your team, one with the highest HP and one with the lowest HP, all damage reduction at the start of battle. So you would need to make sure your Idol Michael has either the highest or lowest HP on your team, and if you're going for a pure DPS build, it might be easier to make sure she has the lowest HP on your team, because you just want to stack attack, speed, and crit, give like Metatron and Thyla HP sets to buff up their HP, and you've literally just taken care of Idol Michael's two biggest issues, being under her threshold or not getting to move because of crowd control, and boom, easy peasy. You can also use someone like Mammon, who is just a generic green support, right? Like, getting that extra defense and that extra speed from her consonants is beneficial to any tech type character. So Mammon's just always a good pair for greens, no ifs, ands, or buts. And if you're looking for another speed booster, you can actually pair her up with OG Sariel. Sariel's going to give speed, but also her skill 2 gives steady, which is immunity to move gauge reduction. On top of that, her skill 3 is a revive, which can be very gimmicky but fun. Maybe not fun for your opponent, but fun for you when paired with Michael. That way you have double revives going, especially if you have Thyla and Metatron in there. Also, you just have 4 characters with revives, and you just keep reviving on your teammates, and just nobody ever stays dead. This also works really well because of Sariel's passive, this 15% move gauge buff. When paired with Idol Michael's team buff, you're getting quite a big chunk of move gauge out of that. Then other characters to kind of help keep Idol Michael within her HP threshold by the time she gets her turn are always appreciated. Characters like General Sandalphon with her passive here, which reduces incoming damage, and then Bunny Asmo with her passive, who reduces incoming damage from AoE attacks, as well as her ult, which reduces incoming damage. And like I mentioned previously, she also pairs incredibly well with crowd control enablers, anyone that can buy her a turn. So if you're worried about your Michael not getting a turn, instead of protecting her, you can just shut down your opponent. Use OG Michael for her stun, use Christmas Lucy for her freeze, you can use Panagia for confuse, And then you've got Hero Gab, or Angel Prefect, a lot of people call her Hero Gab, for her days. Now keep in mind this is only going to work against all characters when Gabby is at +8, but it's still an option. And you know, that's pretty much all of the theory crafting I've done with Idol Michael. She's definitely a good character. Whether or not you want to invest in her is completely up to you. She's not, you know, necessary to have for any account, but she's good, she's fun, she does cool things, and if you like that, if you like her, go ahead and build her. No one's going to shame you for that. And you probably won't regret it, because characters always get buffed. In the future, I don't know if she has a consonance or a super evolution on the other servers, but you know, if this game goes on long enough, she's almost guaranteed to get one eventually. So any character you build will probably get buffed in the future, so don't feel bad about building anybody. And with that out of the way, I think I will go ahead and end the video there, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.